2 World Cup titles. Back-to-back victories. A coaching partnership that rewrote the rules of international rugby. And now, with Australia 2027 looming on the horizon, the question isn't just whether South Africa can make history with 3 consecutive championships. The real question is simpler and more direct. Can they do it without bringing the band back together? This isn't about nostalgia or sentiment. This is about something far more fundamental to how the Springboks operate at the highest level. It's about a partnership that began in the most unlikely of places, evolved through 2 decades of shared vision, delivered unprecedented success, and might not be quite finished yet. The relationship between Rassie Erasmus and Jacques Nonaba started in South African military conscription during the early 1990s. 2 young men thrown together in circumstances neither chose. Years later, their paths crossed again at the University of the Free State. One was the rugby captain, the other a physiotherapist. Picture this scene because it's been repeated countless times across their career. A player lying on a treatment table for 45 minutes, injured, with nothing to do but talk. A physiotherapist working on the injury, listening, analyzing, thinking about the game in ways that went far beyond fixing muscles and joints. Those conversations weren't about recovery protocols. They were about rugby. About patterns, about what worked and what didn't, about the fundamental architecture of how the game should be played. When playing days ended and coaching began in 2004, the first call was simple: come work with me. Not as a physiotherapist this time, as a conditioning coach. From Free State to the Stormers, from the Stormers to Munster, from Munster to the Springboks. Every step of the journey, taken together. By the time they took over South African rugby in 2018, they'd been collaborating for nearly 2 decades. Their original plan was specific: target the 2023 World Cup, build a system, develop the players, create the depth, and peak at exactly the right moment. The 2019 tournament in Japan was, in their own words, a bonus. They didn't expect to win it that early, but they did. The defensive system they built became legendary. Teams couldn't break through, couldn't find space, couldn't execute their attacking patterns, because the Springbok defense was always there, always organized, always one step ahead. But defense alone doesn't win World Cups anymore. So they evolved. They experimented. The 7-1 bench split, the bomb squad, bringing on 7 forwards and only 1 back as substitutes. Traditional thinking said it couldn't work. The criticism was loud until the strategy delivered results. Then everyone else started copying it. Even while chasing back-to-back titles, they were developing young players, rotating the squad, giving opportunities to athletes who might not be needed immediately, but would be crucial later. When key players went down injured in 2023, others stepped up seamlessly. They won every knockout game by a single point. So when the tournament ended in triumph, the natural assumption was they'd continue together. But life intervenes. The separation was announced well before that second title. One would remain with the Springboks. The other would take his family to Ireland, to Leinster, to a new challenge. It wasn't a split born of conflict. It was a practical decision made by adults with responsibility beyond rugby. But it left a gap because replacing 2 decades of shared understanding isn't something you do with a single hiring decision.
Now, nearly 2 years after that separation, something interesting is developing. Recent interviews reveal something telling. The one who left admits openly he misses the Springboks. His contract with Leinster expires at the end of the 2027 domestic season, in the Northern Hemisphere, right at the start of the Southern Hemisphere's international window. Right when World Cup preparations enter their final, most intensive phase, the current head coach has been explicit about welcoming a return. They still meet when schedules allow. They had lunch together in Dublin recently. The relationship hasn't diminished with distance. The Springboks have continued winning since 2023. They retained the Rugby Championship title for the first time in their history in 2025. They finished the year with an 86% win rate. They're ranked number 1 in the world. So why bring the partnership back? Because working and optimizing are 2 different things. Because winning between World Cups and winning the World Cup itself require different approaches. No team has ever won 3 consecutive World Cup titles. Not New Zealand, at their peak. Not anyone. 3 in a row would be unprecedented. A feat that stands alone in rugby history, and achieving something unprecedented might require bringing back the partnership that's already achieved what others haven't. Consider what they built together, not just tactics or game plans, but an entire philosophy of how to prepare for and win World Cups. The long-term planning, the squad depth, the willingness to experiment years before the tournament. That philosophy remains present, but philosophy and execution are enhanced when the architects who designed the system are both present to oversee it. There's also the matter of defensive structure. The system developed over years remains one of the most effective in world rugby, but systems need maintenance, evolution. Having the original designer present to adapt, to refine, to stay ahead of the curve, provides an advantage that's hard to quantify but impossible to ignore. Coaching staff continuity matters enormously in international rugby. The current structure works, but reintegrating someone who knows the system intimately, who helped create it, who understands the culture and the players and the goals, is far easier. There's no learning curve, no adjustment period, no risk of disrupting what's working. The counter-argument is reasonable. Don't fix what isn't broken. The Springboks are winning. They have excellent coaches in place. They're developing young players while keeping experienced ones competitive. Why complicate things? Because complications and enhancements aren't the same thing. In high-stakes environments like World Cups, marginal gains matter enormously. 1% improvements in preparation, in tactical understanding, in player management, can be the difference between winning by a point or losing by a point. There's also the mental side of competition. World Cups test more than physical and tactical preparation. They test nerve, resilience, the ability to handle pressure in moments where everything hangs in the balance. Having coaches who've been through it before, who know what those moments feel like, who can guide players through the psychological challenges, is invaluable. Think about the practical realities. For someone based in Ireland, with young children, those factors matter. But World Cup cycles are different. What makes this partnership particularly valuable for a 2027 push isn't just what they accomplished together in the past, it's how they work together. One is comfortable with public attention, willing to be controversial, unafraid to take criticism if it serves the team's interests. The other prefers staying behind the scenes, focusing on relationships with players, doing the detailed work that doesn't generate attention, but absolutely determines outcomes. That balance matters enormously in high-pressure environments. There's also tactical balance. One brings innovation, big-picture strategy, the willingness to try unconventional approaches. The other brings detailed defensive structures, player management, systematic implementation. Neither approach works optimally without the other. Their track record speaks to this. At every stop in their careers together, teams improved. Free State, the Stormers, Munster, the Springboks. The pattern is consistent, but rugby has evolved since they last waxed together daily. The game is faster, more technical. Would the partnership still be as effective now as it was before? There's reason to think it would. Both have continued developing since the separation. One has been running the Springboks through another successful cycle, adapting to rule changes, developing new players. The other has been working in a completely different rugby environment, seeing different playing styles, different tactical approaches. Reuniting wouldn't mean reverting to what worked in 2023. It would mean combining what each has learned since then, bringing fresh perspectives gained from different experiences together to create something evolved from what they built before.
The path to 2027 is already in motion. Preparation has been underway for years. The squad is developing, the tactics are evolving, the infrastructure is in place. South Africa will arrive in Australia as defending champions, world number one with a target on their back, and history in their sights. The question is whether bringing the band back together would enhance their already strong position. Would it provide those marginal gains that matter in knockout rugby? The case for yes is compelling. Championship pedigree matters. System knowledge matters. The ability to work seamlessly without adjustment periods matters. Having a partnership with proven success in exactly this scenario matters. The case for no is reasonable too. Don't disrupt what's working. Trust the current process. Let the existing staff continue the excellent work they're already doing. Both positions have merit, and ultimately, the decision will be made by people with far more information than public speculation can access. But what makes this situation fascinating is how genuinely uncertain it remains. This isn't inevitable or impossible. It's genuinely open, which means the next year will provide answers to questions that matter enormously. Consider what's at stake. For South African rugby, 3 consecutive titles would represent dominance unprecedented in the sport's history. It would establish this era as the greatest in Springbok history. For the current head coach, it would cement his status as perhaps the greatest rugby coach of all time. For the potential returnee, it would complete a journey from physiotherapist to three-time champion, as part of a reunited partnership. For the players, it would secure their legacies as members of the greatest team in rugby history. Those stakes explain why this isn't just another coaching decision. This is about legacy, history, and the pursuit of something that's never been done. World Cups are volatile. Injuries happen. Form fluctuates. Opposition teams prepare brilliantly. Knockout rugby punishes mistakes mercilessly. The best preparation in the world can't eliminate all uncertainty, but preparation can maximize chances. It can create the conditions for success, even when circumstances aren't perfect. And if there's one thing this partnership proved over 2 World Cup cycles, it's their ability to prepare teams that can win when it matters most. The reunion question will be answered in the coming months. Contract situations will be resolved. Decisions will be made, and we'll know whether the partnership that delivered back-to-back World Cup titles will reunite for an attempt at something unprecedented. What we can say with certainty is that the Springboks are positioned to compete for that 3rd consecutive title. They have the players, the system, the coaching infrastructure, the experience of winning under pressure. Adding the partnership back together would enhance those strengths, but the existing strengths are formidable regardless. The question is whether those decisions can shift the probability of success from strong to optimal, whether bringing back proven championship expertise provides enough additional value to justify the complications. Whatever they decide will be based on far more information than speculation can access. But the possibility exists. The timing aligns. The door remains open. And for anyone who appreciates sporting excellence, the prospect of this partnership reuniting for one more attempt at history is compelling. 3 consecutive World Cup titles, a feat no rugby nation has ever achieved. A challenge that will test every aspect of preparation, performance and execution. And potentially, a partnership that's already achieved what others haven't. Either way, 2027 promises to be fascinating. Either way, the Springboks will compete. Either way, history will be written. The only question is, who will be writing it together?